Hello, ladies and gentlemen, viewers and listeners, and welcome back to the channel. We are so excited to bring you in the new year with episode 2 of To Watch or Not to Watch podcast. I'm your host, Hayden Gentry, and joined alongside me is my co host,
Bennett Geschel.
And for today's episode, Bennett, what are we going to be covering?
We will be ranking our top 5 2025 movies. So last episode we talked about what we were looking forward to for the next year. Now that we're done, we're past December, now we're into January. We thought this would be a good time to look back on the year that we just had, what movies we liked, which ones we didn't. But we will only be looking at our top 5. So I do have one honorable mention I'll be talking about. But besides that, we will just be knocking down that list.
I got some honorable mentions as well. So.
All right, perfect. So we'll start with those today.
Gotcha.
That is our topic, guys.
See, and I'm gonna do one quick thing. I'm just gonna look at that thing one time and one time only at the camera. So you go ahead and start us off with our show, beginning your honorable mentions right now.
Yeah. So I just had one really I wanted to talk about because when I was trying to make a list of my top 5 here, I had a tough time deciding between 6 of them. So I'll just give the one that didn't make the list this time around. All of these could change at any point because obviously opinions always change as we age, as we just see a movie a second time and maybe we feel differently about it. But the one I want to mention is Wake Up Dead Man, the Knives Out mystery movie that came to Netflix last month. That I really enjoyed that movie. I had a good time with that. I'm already a huge fan of the franchise. I saw the first one, not in theaters or anything when it came out, but that year. And then I saw the other one, Glass Onion, when that came out back during COVID time. It was a few years ago. And so I've been following along. I obviously love the format of where each one of these movies is very standalone still. I love that you don't have to necessarily have seen the first 2. You don't have to at all to see the newest one because the only, connection between all of these is that you got the same detective. I can't remember the guy's name. I know the actor's name. Craig. Yeah, but what's the actor's or the character's name? Something Blunt. Or...
Yeah, Detective Blunt.
Either way, he's a great character. And it's each one of these movies then is a mystery that he's on the case for. But you get always a star-studded cast, which they once again had with. I should have taken notes like you because now I'm to call up all these names. I mean, they had Mila Kunis. They had, I have no idea what the main character's name is. He was more unknown than the other ones. They had, what was the guy that plays Thanos? I'm blanking on his name.
Oh, Josh Brolin.
Yeah, he was the pastor or the reverend or whatever.
There was a couple of familiar faces, but the guy who's the main character in the show, or the main target, who is the preacher who's going to the other church and the other ministry. Mm-hmm. I've never seen him in anything else, but I think he's pretty good. I thought he did a phenomenal job with acting in this.
Yeah, he did. I never seen him in anything else, but yeah, he did do a great job. Because I guess that's, to be fair, he really was the main character.
Yeah.
And the detective is kind of more of a supportive character almost.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of just shows up to solve the mystery, but it's not really about him in any sense. And yeah, this one was particularly interesting. Each one has been about a very different subject matter. It's always has to do with the murder still, always, has lots of twists and everything. But this one had a lot more to do with religion and Christianity specifically, which is always a topic that can be handled in all different ways when it comes to Hollywood. Yeah. Usually in ways I don't love. And I thought this was one of the better examples where obviously they show how Christianity can be abused and how people can use church and religion to, achieve personal gain. Then you also get to see the other side of someone like the main character who really just wants to do what Christ has, told him to do, and wants to make, this new church that he's been a part of or has joined up with, actually make real change there. So
yeah, there's definitely Hollywood over the last couple of years. We see kind of the decline of Christianity-based movies of what was the premise about them, because we've seen really good movies give out very meaningful and talk about truth of their movies, but we see now it's kind of more of a mockery. Now jokes are said. And this one, like you said, perfectly, it shows all sides. Like we have Josh Brolin's character, who's the preacher. We see him abuse the power of the church and misleading and like derivatively talking about hate to target people's sins. And then you have this new preacher who's trying to tell them like we're not here as judge jury, like we're here to open our arms to them just like Jesus did. And then we also see him battling his own faith as he's being accused for murder, doesn't know what to really do, feels like he's failing in that priest. And there were some certain scenes I love where he had moments of opportunity to become, a real priest. Like he had conversations with some people about prayer and he spent time on the phone. And I just thought that was an interesting take for, a movie to do that, especially nowadays. I was like, oh, this is like definitely happened in real life with like some of our friends too. So it's like, or family and friends, strangers. So it was cool to see that in like a movie that's, became a series now and it's pretty big. So
Yeah, and I hope they keep making them. I think the only thing that holds this one back though from maybe making my top 5, because it was really close, and honestly, like depending on the day, it could be my top 5. Like it just, we'll see how it ages, but I think there was just something a little bit magical about that first one, where whether it was just that specific cast or that story, because we rewatched that first one like soon after, and I like that kind of confirmed it for me that like no, like I'm not just remembering the first one like more fondly than these others. Like it really is better. I can't still quite think of like why. Maybe it's slightly simpler. I think I really just don't know, but I think the other two feel like they're trying to recapture whatever they, hit on it with that first one. I don't think they haven't quite done it for me. Whether it's just like they're forcing it too much.
yeah.
I would also just say on top of that, I think with this one specifically, there's just kind of felt like there was too many twists at the end. They kind of just like kept like dogpiling twists almost on top of one another, where it was like, at what point is it too much? I feel like maybe they went slightly too far with, especially that final one, which I won't spoil, but there was kind of like one more twist at the end that felt like, I think that's the other thing with the mystery too, is I at least on some level, when I rewatch the movie, to like, oh, like I can see where all that plays into it, but I feel like the twist is, oh, you just like, we didn't really give you the information at any point in the movie. Someone kind of just like gave you false information, and then we'll reveal like the actual.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know.
I mean,
does that make sense? What I'm trying to say?
Well, I watched it with some buddies of ours. We both watched it on our own. I kind of knew, that plot twist was coming. It just felt
Did
like
you?
it just felt like the character's betrayal of it. I was like, something ain't right. Something ain't right. I don't know, because it's like when you watch 3 of them now, it's kind of like you pick up on like the hints and stuff like that. So you're like, okay, I can see how this is kind of sus or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the other thing too. Like the first time you do that type of movie, it just feels more fresh and innovative, and I think it starts to probably like wear out each time you do it. Not that this wasn't good, but it doesn't. Neither the second one nor this like surpass what the first one did in my mind.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's my honorable mention. You said you had a few.
Yeah.
Let's hear them.
Well, I'll go through really quick. Was that your only honorable mention?
That was the only one I wanted to mention because that was the only one that I like debated between that and the 5 that didn't make my top 5 for which one I was going to cut.
I gotcha.
Anything outside of that, like 7 through, I watched 13 movies in 2025, and so I had to pick from those, which honestly wasn't as, I think in 2023, I had like close to 30, if not over 30 movies I saw.
You saw 13 this year?
13, yeah.
Okay.
And then 2024 could have been close to that too.
Yeah.
But
I spent going through IBM's list in 2025. I didn't realize how much movies do get released because it is covering the globe. I ended up seeing 22 movies this year, which I've been telling Bennett here I need to start my letterbox. Like throughout these years, I haven't had one, and I kind of just remembered what I watched, but now it's kind of like, I don't know, my memory's becoming loose, so I need to figure out what I've watched. But
yeah, guys, this guy just turned 22, so he's getting up there in age.
Oh my!
The dementia might be setting in early.
No way, bro. Just call me Unc on the podcast.
You might have heard it from him first. He said his number is getting loose. I think that's
crazy.
that's an admission to what
That's
we're all
crazy.
seeing. So
Well, I'll go through these really quick. I did have number 6 for Wake Up Dead Man as well.
okay.
Yeah. Basically the same points we just covered. I felt like maybe the chemistry with all the characters wasn't what I liked most about it. Like I really loved how it was Christianity based, 100%, like faith driven, or as they say, faith driven based. Um, yeah, I don't know. I guess it just has. It doesn't feel like the first two. I think the first one is still the best out of all 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Then I had Superman on there, Fantastic Four, and then this is actually not going to be a movie. It's going to be a TV show, but the episodes are long like a movie. Season 5 Stranger Things.
Okay.
I spent like a whole...
These are all honorable mentions?
Yeah, okay. So I won't go into detail about them because there will be another time I might talk about them because I really do have like points I really want to cover why I put these as honorable mentions, because making this list, it was super close, man. All these things were super close. Like these 4 almost made the top 5. I don't know. I changed last second. It might change again. I don't know. It's still very close. And they do have like a lot of stuff I want to talk about them to make it why I would choose those. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump into our actual top 5 now. I'll let you start off with your number 5.
Perfect. Well, my number 5 is actually one of the ones you mentioned as an honorable mention briefly, which was Fantastic Four.
Okay.
The full title being Fantastic Four: First Steps. So I'm happy I have that in my notes. Yeah, I saw that back in theaters back in July when it came out.
Yeah.
And obviously, if anyone is a Marvel fan and a Fantastic Four fan specifically, you know that the Fantastic Four has had a pretty rough history in cinema. I mean, they were the first like real Marvel comics back in the 60s, which kind of kicked off everything when Stan Lee was going crazy and making, you know, all these characters. And so they really have been like the foundation of Marvel. But now that everyone thinks of Marvel as like the Marvel Cinematic Universe that we've had for the last 15 years, a lot of people will assume that like the Avengers or, you know, Spider-Man, X-Men, those are like the more important characters. Where really Fantastic Four is what started it. And kind of rightfully so, because like I said, they've had a rough history of cinema. They technically had a movie in the 90s I've never seen. It might have been like a TV thing or something, but I've heard of it. And then they had 2 movies in the 2000s, which I watched growing up. That's where you got Chris Evans playing Human Torch, and those movies were fun, but they're pretty cheesy. And it was in that era in the 2000s where they were still kind of figuring out how to make superhero movies. You had some hits, like you had Spider-Man, I really like X2, I think it's of that trilogy. But then you also have, obviously, like Dark Knight and stuff, but you had a lot of misses. You had stuff like Daredevil, the movie. Yeah. Obviously not the show. I love the show, but there was a movie that was not great. Yeah. There was a Hulk movie I haven't seen before the MCU that I've heard is not great. There was a bunch of stuff. And the Fantastic Four movies were, they were made by Fox back then too. And they weren't the best. And then they tried to reboot it in 2015, but whole new cast of like, what was it, Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan, a few others, and that movie was not great either. Did terrible, and that kind of like killed, I felt like, any momentum at the time. Where Fox, after how poorly that movie did critically and box office wise, they said they're done and weren't going to touch Fantastic Four. And so it wasn't until Marvel then bought Fox in 2019, I think it was, or Disney bought Fox in 2019. And so then for the first time in like years, it felt like, all right, we have a chance of now getting not only the Fantastic Four maybe done right in movies, but also as part of the rest of the universe, as part of the rest of the MCU. And so this movie, all this to get to the point that this movie feels like it had been in the works for years. They announced it way back as part of Phase 4. I remember, like I remember seeing at one of the cons years ago that like Kevin Feige had put up, you know, what Phase 4 was going to look like, and it was supposed to come out like the end of 2023. I think it was originally, and this movie just kept getting pushed back.
Yeah.
And so we finally got it. We didn't know the cast for a long time until like maybe a year ago, and we didn't really know much about the plot, which I'm fine with because I'm also not a person who needs to know a ton about
Yeah.
a movie before I see it. Anyways, if you saw our last episode, I don't like watching trailers that much either, partly because of that reason. And so yeah, I was really excited to see this movie. I thought due to the bad history of Fantastic Four movies, on the one hand it could be bad, but on the other hand, I felt like it's been enough time and it's now in the hands of people who know how to do movies well. Obviously, the MCU has had a lot of misses recently, but this one felt like one that they were going to at least take their time to get right. And I think they did. That's why it's in my number 5 spot. I thought the cast for the most part was really good. I'm obviously very happy that we finally got to see Galactus for the first time. I mean, I guess we had that weird version in the Rise of the Silver Surfer movie.
Yeah, it
way
was
back
just like
in
a.
07.
It was kind of like a Green Lantern movie. It was just a dark cloud of energy. It wasn't like a physical form
No, which
at all.
obviously Galactus is insanely difficult to pull off. And I don't know if they fully did. Like, he did look pretty weird at moments, but at the same time, you're doing a CGI giant. So it's like, I don't know how you do that.
Yeah.
And especially if you look like, he was pretty accurate to what he looked like in the comics too, which
Yeah.
is kind of goofy looking anyways with that weird looking, I don't know what you call it, mask or crown, whatever he's wearing.
Just like helmet.
Yeah,
probably.
helmet. Yeah. But yeah, I thought the plot was solid. It wasn't anything mind blowing. There wasn't like a lot of crazy twists or anything. But as far as like just getting that foundation of what the Fantastic Four is going to be going forward, I'm excited. Hopefully, we get another movie at some point. I know there'll be an Avengers Doomsday, so we'll get to see some of those characters then, and obviously Doctor Doom. But yeah, I really enjoyed that movie. So
Yeah, I'll just give 3 points of why I really loved that and why it was super close. One was because this actually felt like a real grounded superhero movie. Like, this is what heroes are supposed to do. One prime example of that is when Sue Storm goes out to the people rioting at the tower because Galactus wants. Basically, the plot is Galactus is coming for their child, Sue Storm, and Mr. Fantastic's child, and Reed Richards. But she doesn't want to give it up. Obviously, as a parent, like, how can you do that? And I talked about this with a friend of mine. It actually shows you, like, it takes your breath away to be like, okay, this is a real prime example of, like, what would a society react? Like, the rioting, be like, why would you give up your child to save the planet? Sue Storm comes out of there, gives an excellent speech, and I don't know the actress name, but she definitely delivered with it. She was like, I will not sacrifice my child for this world.
Vanessa
Bye.
Kirby for Sue Storm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she was like, I won't sacrifice this world for my child, though. And I just, like, after watching so many downfalls of Marvel, like them just being trying to be too corny, too funny, whatever, we kind of lose the premise of, like, what are these superhero moments supposed to mean again? Like, that's why I love Spider-Man. Like, throughout their movies, you always see him interacting with the people. And that's what a hero is supposed to be. Like, first Iron Man, when he liberated those people in a foreign country, he got attackers of Taliban and stuff. Like, I think those are moments where we need to show, like, heroes interacting with citizens and stuff like that. So that was one big point. And then 2 was Joseph Quinn being the Human Torch. I feel like they kept his character intact. I felt like they were going to do some woke stuff with making him, like, I don't know, because he's supposed to be like a charmer with the ladies and stuff like that, hot-headed. But one thing I constantly see in a lot of things is, like, people forget, like, this guy's smart. You know what I mean? Like, he's an astronaut. He's not just some guy who went up because of his sister who's really smart. Like, he met the qualifications to be going up in space with them and being scientists and astronauts. So when he figures out the translation of the language for the Silver Surfer, I'm like, yes, thank you. Because, one, you kept his charm and, like, his funny charisma and his, like, wits and bits and stuff, but you also showed he's qualified to be a hero and have the IQ to solve stuff like that. And then also, heroic sacrifice without wanting the glory, like he almost did. And then 3rd, like you said, just Galactus coming into the MCU, like, it was super cool. They obviously MCU'd his costume a little bit because his original design is bright purple, bright blue with all this stuff. So obviously they made it a darker tone, but kept his uniform the same how it is, which I loved. But going to my number 5 is Frankenstein that came out on Netflix recently. Um, I don't know much about the guy. It's Guillermo del Toro is the director who wrote it, and he has 3 Oscar wins, 141 wins, and 224 nominations. Um, some of his
Oh
best,
wow.
yeah, some of his best known works that I looked up on IBM's list is Pan's Labyrinth, Hellboy,
Oh, I've seen that.
and then his version of Pinocchio. It just has his name and then Pinocchio in there. It's like a 2D animation. In the Shape of Water, which is that girl with the aquatic male man like creature. I don't know if I've never seen that. His Oscar wins were the Best Director and Best Picture for Shape of Water, and then Best Animated Feature Film for Pinocchio.
He directed Pacific Rim too.
Oh, really?
I guess. Yeah, I'm looking it up right now.
I did not find that on there. I guess I didn't scroll down far enough. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not a huge Frankenstein fan, but I heard a lot of great things online about it. So I was like, I'll give it a watch because it has that actor Jacob. I don't know his last name. Plays Frankenstein, and then Oscar Isaac.
Elordi? It's something like that.
Yeah, Frankenstein's monster, I should say. Actually, he plays Frankenstein's monster. Then Oscar Isaac is Frankenstein. But I just thought I really love movies that play back in the day, like that type of English and that literature is always something fun to listen to and see the dialogue. But I thought the music, the color grading, the dynamic of just Jacob performing as the monster. Because one thing I see this movie is like, the famous saying, like, nobody's born a monster, they're just created a monster, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in this sense, I see that Frankenstein created a monster. He was born a monster, but he didn't let that be his definition of a monster throughout his life. He wants peace. He wants just love. But then Frankenstein, he wasn't born a monster. He was kind of like borderline abused, I would say, by his father. Wasn't very loved and lost his mother. But he created himself a monster. Like over the time, he was just trying to, be the smartest person, defeat death, and then ends up hurting everybody he loves, and then also ends up, getting injuries to himself where he's gonna die too because his greed, his madness, his anger, rage. So I just think like, how can you create something that was supposed to be like horrific, but then you end up the one that's more horrific than that? So it's kind of cool to see like the closure at the end part of it. And overall, I just think Frankenstein has always been a thing where theaters, movies always try to go a different direction with it. Like obviously the book and back then was he's horrifying, thriller, whatever. But now we're sympathizing for him because all he wants is to be left alone, really, and want to be accepted and learn. So it's always interesting to see like what theaters or movies want to take in the direction of a play for that.
Yeah, so I have not seen that movie, so it's not gonna be on my list today. But I know it's on Netflix, so I should check it out. I definitely have interest in it. I know it's really long. That's probably why I've stayed away from it up until this point, right? Isn't it close to like 3 hours or?
No, not that long. No,
Oh, so maybe I was misinformed about that.
I think it's 2.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I remember just hearing like some discourse around that one too, that like people thought it should have been released in theaters because it was like one of those ones that only went to Netflix. Yeah. Maybe it was in theaters, but like had like a limited release because they like to do that too. Because I know it was a really expensive movie from what I've heard too.
Yeah, I think it should have been in theaters for sure. Because when I was watching it, I was like, I'd rather sit in like a seat with a giant like I don't know screen for this.
And maybe we'll do Oscar predictions on a different episode, but that's one that, from what I've heard, probably will at least get nominated for some stuff. Whether it wins, I don't know, but yeah, it has to at least get nominated for a few categories, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. All right, my number 4 is going to be Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. This is the 8th installment, an 8th and final installment, kind of like the title makes it sound like, As far as we know, obviously franchises always get rebooted at some point, but hopefully this one. I hope this is the last one because Tom Cruise has been doing these movies for 30 years. Literally, the first one came out back in 1996, before even Hayden was born. So that's how old this is. uh, my bad. But yeah, so he's been doing this movie for a long time. The last one just came out.
All right, so I'm gonna start a separate channel now.
This last one just came out this past summer, and it was the eighth one, but was also a part two, really, to the movie that came before, which was Dead Reckoning. Yeah, it really was essentially part two. They just didn't call it that, probably because they wanted to make more money. Part two is maybe, I don't know, people think they're going to miss out. But yeah, honestly, out of all the Mission Impossible movies, this wasn't one of my favorites, but this was another really solid entry. It kind of delivered everything you want for the most part, which is big action set pieces, Tom Cruise doing some crazy stuff, even at his old age. And yeah, I saw this one in IMAX as well, which was really cool. That probably adds to me loving this movie as much as I did. I will say the criticisms around this movie are legit as far as like, I agree with this movie does have way too much exposition and it's really confusing for the first hour. So if you can get through like that, then you're kind of chilling. But they did way too much work to like they made it overly convoluted, and especially when you're dealing with what should be a part two, right? To a movie that already had all the setup. I don't understand why they had to add as much as they did at the start of this movie when it really feels like they should have just been able to kind of start off strong from the get-go. But so that part was unfortunate. I think this movie just has, rightfully so, really high expectations because this is not only another entry in the franchise that has been really hot in like the last 10 years too. Like this is one of the few franchises where people, the critical consensus is that these movies have been getting better over time. Yeah. Like the last, I think Fallout has the highest Rotten Tomatoes, but the one right before it, or the one right after, and the one right before the one I'm talking about, Dead Reckoning, was up there as well. This was the first one that had like a little bit of a drop, but yeah, and especially when you're doing the final movie in a franchise that has been so good, you kind of expect a little bit more. I don't know at least to deliver something a little bit more special. And I feel like this one maybe underwhelmed a little bit, and so it wasn't bad. Yeah, I still really liked it. Obviously, it's my number 4, but I do, I do wish it could have been a little bit better. But as far as a Mission Impossible movie, it delivered for the most part what I wanted, and still sticks out as one of the more enjoyable movies I saw this past year.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get a watch. I just haven't gone around to it because I just knew like I've seen all of them, but I was just like,
so this is the only one you haven't seen?
It's just not the one I haven't seen because I think I told you once. I was like, I'm just, it's been going on for a while, so I'm like, it's gonna be the same kind of feel, repetitive, and I was just like, I'll just wait until it comes out on like streaming service just to watch it. I didn't really want to go. I don't know. It didn't really sold me of like, I'm a big fan of him. I like Tom Cruise as an actor, and I like the Mission Impossible series. I think a lot of them are really good. I was like, I wasn't sold on it. I guess for advertising wise, I wasn't really sold. I don't know why. For my fourth, because just going through time. My fourth one is gonna be Sinners. Right now, Ryan Coogler was the director for this. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah, Ryan Coogler.
Coogler, that's how you say that. What he's well known for is he worked on the Black Panther movies. He worked on.
Yeah, he directed those as well.
Yeah, which obviously did very well for themselves. He did the Creed series. He also did Eyes of Wakanda, which is a new animated TV show series on Disney Plus. Some of these he directed, some of these he didn't. I just listed what he played a part. Like when I'm going through these directors of like the movies I picked, they didn't direct all these other movies. I'm just saying what they're known for to be worked on. Like
he was at least involved.
Yeah, like some of them wrote, some of them produced. But then another one that isn't that great was Ironheart.
I
Um,
never watched it, so I'm not gonna make a judgment.
and I watched this documentary. I didn't know that he did this, but he worked on the Steph Curry underrated documentary, which I really loved. And then he worked on the newest Space Jam, New Legacy with LeBron James, which also, in my opinion, was not that great. Um, why'd this make my top four? Well, I'm not really big into horror or any of that stuff, but I felt like comfortable going to see this one because it was more kind of like an action based horror film, and I kind of wanted to see how they were doing Michael B. Jordan as twins for the first time. This was the first time Michael B. Jordan has had a type of performance where he had to play two different characters at the same time. Um, and just seeing behind the scenes stuff of it was very interesting. How he had to do two takes of everything, making sure he mimics his hand motion. Like, there's one famous scene where it opens up, first time seeing the twins, and one of them, I think it's Smoke, he's rolling up a cigarette joint or something, and he hands it off to his brother. What is his name? Stack.
Mm-hmm.
Stack. And it was just like, it looked seamless. Like, it looked like real because he grabs it as he's letting go. So, like, just seeing the behind the scenes stuff, that was really cool. And I remember when I went to go see theaters, this is another cool point of the movie. The film ratio, as the aspect ratio changed during the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're all about to fight all the vampires coming in, it's like super thin, like it's cut here. But then as the moment's building up and they're starting to gear up and the doors are breaking down in the barn, it like all opened up. If you guys don't know what that
I watched it
looks
on a TV in my dorm, but you can still
yeah,
it keeps all that, so I know exactly what you're talking about because I noticed
Yeah.
the changes, and especially for that scene, it like
exactly.
slowly, yeah, it was really cool.
Another good example, if you guys don't know that, if you guys ever watched the Hunger Games, I'm pretty sure it's the second one. Katniss Everdeen, she's going back up for the second part of the games, and one of her friends is getting, about to be killed and dragged off from front of her. But she goes up the elevator, and it's the same thing. It cuts halfway, and then as she goes up and reveals the arena, it slowly opens up the ratio. And I think it's just like a good director's choice and being like directing your eye to what they want you to see in the film. So I thought that was really cool. And then also for Ryan, he has nominated 2 Oscars, no wins, but 94 wins for different awards and 142 nominations. And the critic awards choice was just, I think that's the name of the title. It's the Critics' Roles Choice or whatever. It's a award show. And the guy who plays Preacher Boy actually won for Youngest Male Actor to win an award. So that was pretty cool to see. Yeah, a bunch of these actors was just cool to watch, and then the color grading was awesome for it. So that's why I made my 4th pick. Was just like the way everything's filmed. Really, I'm a sucker for seeing like how camera stuff works since I do that as a profession already. So,
Well, let's transition to my 3rd pick because it is also Sinners. So
let's go.
I would to give my thoughts on it now, and I feel actually very similarly in a lot of respects to the things you said. So I'll start with the fact that I am also not a horror fan at all. I've only seen a few horror movies in my whole life, and none of them. I saw each one like there has to be something to it that would get me to even watch it because horror in general, for 2 different reasons, I don't like. One, I don't like being scared. I just don't know why anyone would. And then the other thing is, I also think horror movies, as far as the plots usually go, are really kind of simplistic and not as interesting as maybe they sometimes can seem on the surface. I think they kind of devolve into like just carnage fest sometimes and stuff, and it's like this isn't really anything that interesting.
Yeah.
And so for both those reasons, I usually stay away. And then and then occasionally there are exceptions, and this was one that I didn't see in theaters when it came out, but I had heard good enough things about it, and enough people had told me that, well, it's not exactly horror, it's horror mixed with like, I guess, what other genres would you say? Like, it has a lot to do with music. I don't know. Like, a lot of it is really about like the blues, a lot of it is about like race and a lot of like the horror aspect kind of like comes and goes throughout the movie, but it's definitely not all about like the vampires.
Yeah.
At certain points, that's the main focus, but there's a lot more to it. And honestly, I really appreciated that about the movie. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why it made it so high up my list, is because it wasn't just a straight up horror. They really did do the work. I guess Ryan Coogler, right? I know you said he directed it. I don't know if he wrote it. I assume he probably did. But he really did get creative with making, in a world where we have so many different horror movies, and especially considering this is an original movie, I think is also kind of where maybe I give it more credit, because there's already so many franchises out there. There's already like such a lack of creativity that it's hard to make something that's not only going to stand out but also be good. And this is one of those examples that I wish we could get more movies like it, where a director is given the money, right? This had a pretty decent budget from what I remember seeing.
Yeah.
And he had like a good cast. He had the ability to make an original movie. This was a guy who had done franchise movies, like he had done Creed, he had done Black Panther, and was able to now kind of move forward into what might be, we'll see what he does next, but could be like a phase of him doing more original movies for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What would suck is if I see like a Sinners 2 announced and Ryan Coogler is directing it. Like that's the last thing I want, honestly, because this is a movie that doesn't need a sequel.
No,
I know it made a lot of
doesn't.
money, so I hope that doesn't. I don't think it will happen. But
No, this was like one and done. This is a one and done movie for sure.
yeah, overall, I thought the story was really good. I also agree the thing about the twins is really interesting. I didn't know that going into the movie, and so when you first see that scene of them like next to the car, and it's like two different Michael B. Jordans, I'm like, oh, this is. I don't know how I feel about this, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I will say that got confusing at multiple points. I need to rewatch that movie because between the two of them, sometimes they would switch scenes so seamlessly. I would forget which one was like in love with which women, and then which one was like, responsible for this part of the job. Like it got confusing at multiple points, and
Stack was in love with Haley Steinfeld's character, and Smoke was with the woman that did like the herbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But either way, it was a really good movie. The person who played the preacher boy, I'd never seen him anything either. He was really like the main character of the movie, which I also wasn't expecting. I assumed it would be Michael B. Jordan's character, but really it was this preacher boy guy who had this, talent to sing really well, and it was cool. I think my only criticism of this movie, really, I thought some of the CGI looked a little weird at moments, maybe, but then also, actually, one more thing too before I get into the criticisms. A thing I really liked about the movie, which I thought was interesting, because again, like you're doing vampires, which has been done so many times in movies. We've seen it, I don't know, for years, but they added a kind of a twist I've never heard of, where like the vampires could only come in if like the people let them, which I thought was really interesting. That like they added that, and like they never said it explicitly, but like I caught on all of a sudden that like, oh, like the reason they like have to get permission, which maybe plays into the idea of that like sin in general is something you have to invite in. I was like, ooh, that's an interesting idea. So I thought he was kind of cooking with that.
That's originally what I thought Sinners was going to be about, was that you don't turn into a vampire because you're getting bit or something. I thought the plot of the movie was going to be like somehow there's going to be one divine faith, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I guess like person with a very strong faith against these vampires, and people are turning it into them because they're leading to temptation of sin. So that's also a good point. It turned out not to be like what that plot was supposed to be about, but that's a very good point to look at it. It's like, oh, you're gonna invite it in because that's like you say yes and all things go haywire because that's what sin does to you. So
which obviously he was trying to make some point with that, and like I started to notice it, and then like it kind of got confirmed in that one scene where like they're all in the building, like the one woman like screams out like come and get us or whatever, and then it goes to like that aspect ratio, they all like turns into a huge fight. But yeah, I think my only criticism of this movie is that it feels like it has 3 or 4 endings, which I've seen plenty of movies where maybe it's just me who gets bothered by that stuff, but it really does feel like it could have ended at 3 or 4 different points, and it really wouldn't have changed much for me. Like I don't know how I felt about the kind of post-credit scene where he's really old at the end, and they had like another twist of these characters still coming back. I'm like, I don't know if we need all of that. They
Yeah.
could have. I don't know. Kind of felt like they kept dragging it out a little bit further, but overall, good movie.
Yeah. And I agree with your points also about just like there's a lot of other stuff besides the vampires. I mean, we saw, you know, racism in there too, and how they confronted that. Like, Smoke ends up killing all the guys who was part of the Ku Klux
Mhm.
Klan, which is really awesome to see. So there's a lot of stuff involved with it, like subtle underlying stuff. But I'll move on to our top three now. Just watched this recently. It just came out during Christmas. Marty Supreme. Timothy Chalamet started it. I don't know, Joss Safdie. Safdie?
I don't know.
Is that
I don't know
his
this guy.
name? I really didn't see much of his movies. I think this is his first like big thing that's gonna pop
Okay.
off. Because the only other thing I saw on his movie list that he helped be a part of was Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler,
Mm.
and I never watched that. I heard it was good, but that was the only one I recognized, so I just put it there. Apparently, he has one primetime Emmy win, and then 28 wins, 116 nominations total.
So he's worked in television then.
Yeah. But the reason I'm choosing this was I'll say there's definitely weird parts about this movie, but Marty Supreme is basically about a biopic. It's not 100% a real biopic because they had to change some of the stuff to make it more of a dramatic type of movie and change the plot a little bit. But essentially, Timothy Chalamet's character is about a New York ping pong hustler. This guy. Let's go back to it really quick.
Yeah, I have not seen this movie. I really don't know much about it. I just know it has great reviews. So
Yeah, it's pretty good.
it's also one that from what I hear, I think will get nominated for some Oscars. And
Marty
probably
Reisman.
Timothy Chalamet will too.
Yeah, Marty Reisman was a profound like ping pong player. He would go up to clubs and stuff, pretend like he wasn't really that good. So they would bet money on it. At first, it would be $5, and he would win. Somebody else would get their money back, $20.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Classic hustling type stuff.
Yeah,
Sure.
and he turned out to be really good. So he actually played professionally in like tournaments, winning opens and stuff like that. And come around the time of 1952, paddles started to change and stuff, and Marty couldn't keep up with the new spin techniques, all that stuff. So he just instead he started to lose to these new techniques and new paddles, and he was upset by it. But then he starts to develop his skill back up and just train, and play his own style of it. But the reason why I love this movie is just because Timothy Chalamet, I think you were mentioning earlier about doing like an Oscar prediction for some of these movies. I think Timothy Chalamet might win his first Oscar soon for this performance because he just won the Critics Award for this movie for Best Male Actor. And he was up with like Leonardo DiCaprio, Michael B. Jordan, some other guys were in that category for it. The reason why I love this movie is just like Timothy Chalamet's ability to act. Like I really think he portrayed so well to perform this character of a New York street hustler because the entire movie I'm like getting frustrated. Like why can't this guy just stop? Like because he's doing such a great job at it. There were some scenes where I was like, okay, this doesn't need to last that long for sure because we stayed in moments too long. But also just
how long is the movie?
It's pretty long. It's almost 3 hours.
Then yeah.
Yeah. But I'm talking about like there were some explicit scenes where I was like, this is kind of awkward to watch for a little bit. Like it didn't have to be that long, especially since I saw this movie with my mother, so that was more awkward.
Yeah.
But so apparently Timothy Chalamet actually got gifted this audition like years back, and he's been training for this movie for 7 years. So he wanted to really mimic what it meant to be like a ping pong player professionally. So he said this in an interview recently, a couple now. He brought a ping pong set to all his other movie sets for the last 7 years so he could practice what it looks like to mimic a real ping pong player. Obviously, the ball is like CGI because no way they could play full matches, but he at least wanted just to be in that.
Hey, if it's
flow.
Christopher Nolan, we know that'd be practical.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. But yeah, he brought it on to a bunch of like most famously, he said he brought it on to both Dunes. Said it's like he would just bring in ping pongs that.
Oh, he was preparing even back then.
Yeah, way back then. Yeah.
Wow.
So he would just have it when he was not recording.
He's definitely one of those actors that I can tell has been like working his way up to like get an Oscar. So whether he does for this one or whether it comes later, it will happen at some point, almost certainly.
Yeah, and I think it's just the mentality thing too that helped people shape their minds, because the premise of it is like he never backed down from his goal. He always wanted to be professional in ping pong. He knew that and he wanted to make that accomplished either way, however way. And also, besides just movie talk, I think he did really well with the advertising for this. I thought it was really smart. Like, he went crazy. He was releasing Marty Supreme jackets. They had ping pong things, ping pong balls you could buy at movie theaters. He did a blimp, Marty Supreme blimp, which you don't see much blimps anymore. And then he also stood on top of the Las Vegas Sphere for a video, and he was just being funny the entire time. And then one other one was they did a fake skit, like Zoom call, when he was talking about the advertisement. He's like, let's be on the cover of a Wheaties box. So he just sold it pretty well. But yeah, that's my top 3.
Okay. Well, let's go to my number 2 then, which is Superman, the first of the DC or just DCU movies now. So we talked about this on our last episode. DC has been a mess for years when it comes to movies. They've had hits. They've had, obviously, Joker was a big hit for them. Like, the Batman was a big hit for them. Obviously, Joker Part 2 was not a big hit, so hopefully the Batman Part 2 does not follow that. If it ever comes out, we'll see. But they've struggled and they've had to retool things, and that's why a few years ago they got James Gunn to take over, as well as Peter Safran, I think is the guy's name. But James Gunn is the guy that's, at least as far as the public knows, like the guy communicating with the public. And I think Peter Safran's more of the behind the scenes type guy. And they have been rehauling DC. They made a bunch of announcements. It was like 2 years ago. And the one that they told us was coming as the first official movie was Superman. So this is one that I had been excited for years. Finally got to see it this past summer. And honestly, it lived up to the hype for the most part. This was a really good movie. Again, saw this one in IMAX, I'm pretty sure. So that was obviously really cool, especially with the flying scenes with Superman. Like, I thought those were done really well. I know this movie had an interesting journey if you pay attention to any of the discourse online, because we still had so many Snyder fans out there that just wanted this movie to fail, I guess, or were just hating on it. Felt like every time they dropped a trailer, there were people complaining about, like, oh, like the dog's stupid, oh, the flying looks weird, oh, the CGI looks awful. I don't know. Pretty much anything I felt like about the movie was being criticized before it even came out. So I had no idea how this movie would do. Thankfully, it did really well, not just critically, but also box office wise. So that's why we're now getting, like we talked about in our last video, Supergirl movie and even a Clayface movie. So they have a lot of faith going forward. We actually also got an announcement for a second movie, Superman. I don't remember the title off the top of my head. Man of Tomorrow or Man of...
Oh, are you talking about Superman or Supergirl?
Yeah, they announced a Superman 2 already.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't
2027. Yeah. I don't know how much we know about it, except that we'll get... Shoot, now I'm blanking on the guy's name. Who plays Superman?
I don't know. I'll tell you what, that was a lot quicker than we ever got for Henry Cavill. So
Yeah, exactly.
is that light on the?
And that will also be coming out before the Batman Part 2, like everything else in life. David Cornsweet.
Okay.
So he's the current Superman now. I loved Henry Cavill, but like I said, that whole universe was an absolute mess. So they needed to rechange everything. And so we have a new actor. Honestly, David Cornsweet, I thought, did a great job. One of my favorite things about this movie was the cast, which honestly, I had high expectations for this movie, but one of the more important things was, like, as long as they get the cast right, even if this movie is not the best, they can always make the changes going forward. What is tougher to change is to have to recast or to...
Yeah.
But if they have that part right, they have a good enough direction, they'll do what they need to do to keep making improvements. Because honestly, I believe James Gunn had like a 10-year plan or something he wanted to do with all these movies. So we'll see where they all go. But this was a good start. And I don't know if this is my favorite Superman movie. It might be. Honestly, the Superman movies, there's a lot of bad ones out there. And I'm not a huge fan of even the ones that are good. Because Christopher Reeve movie, I think, is very much a product of his time. I appreciate it, but it's very cheesy. And even the first and second ones, which are supposed to be the good ones, third and fourth are supposed to be the bad ones. They're all, they're definitely better than the third and fourth. But I don't know. This might be my favorite Superman movie, and I like Man of Steel too. But obviously, this is what we're getting going forward. I'm looking forward to the sequel whenever I think comes out in 2 years, or 2027. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this one was good. I thought the Justice, what do they call it in the movie?
Justice Gang.
Yeah, the Justice Gang was a fun cast of characters too. I think my only criticisms with this movie, I think too much CGI at certain points, and maybe too much of like the James Gunn isms, where he felt like you had to have moments where people like the beat drops and just crazy action scenes, or sometimes that like the humor felt like a little forced. But overall, I think it's a good direction for the character. Like I said, they got Superman right, they got Lois right. Lex Luthor, honestly, really good too. So they got the basics, and it was one of the best movies I saw of the summer, but not the best movie I saw over the summer. We'll talk about that soon.
Yeah, man, I might put Superman on there and just change it because
I convinced some guys.
Yeah, it's so close.
Mm-hmm.
I really love. My favorite part about that movie was the soundtrack, bro. I thought they nailed it perfectly. Like, I literally got goosebumps in the movie theater.
Yeah, every time I hear it, it might be my favorite Superman soundtrack. Well, the John Williams is classic and probably is the best, and they use that, right, to kind of like do a newer, like what was like electric guitar kind of version. Or
it's like a lot of artists will sample something. It was like a sample of the original, and then they just change it up a little bit.
Yeah, it's like a riff on the original.
Yeah. So it was kind of like newer generations. Which
I thought it was perfect. Yep.
Yeah, I thought it was perfect. All right, moving on to my number 2 was Avatar 3 that just came out. I know that it was pretty high on my list for movies I was excited to see. Or, no, sorry. I talked about it last episode, what I was excited to see recently, I think. And just
2025 in general, would this have been like one that you were looking forward to?
Yeah, it was so close to almost being 2026. I was like really still hyped to see it, even though it was released in 2025. The same thing like the Marty Supreme movie, but yeah, the reason why it's high on my list is because I was looking forward to this when I heard there was the third one coming. I really loved all the series for it. I do have some critics about it. I'll get those out of the way. Even though it was I liked how long it was. I like longer movies. I know some people don't because it gets dragged on a lot. I feel like we could have used a little more less certain fight scenes, because a real repetitive thing about the last 2 movies, which is kind of getting tiresome, is like somehow, some way, people get captured, they escape, get captured again. Like, I felt like the second one had like 2 different scenes back to back, like literally in the span of 5 minutes, someone getting captured, and I was like, okay, this is dumb. And then third one, you get like 5 capture scenes. The only one that made sense was like they get captured by the new tribe that we got to see in this movie, the Fire Tribe. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce the name because I forgot what they're called. And then we got Jake Sully basically going to his death sentence with the human capital where they were at. So I was like, those are good, but I was like, we don't need to do another one where like they're on the ship, they get captured again. Like, it just felt repetitive from the second one. Yeah, those were my biggest critics.
Criticisms.
Sorry, shorten it. But James Cameron directed this. It If you guys don't know, there's some. He's worked on the other ones, obviously. Another movie he's worked on is Alita: Battle Angel. He's also worked on the Alien series, Terminator series, Rambo, and Titanic is his big win. So he actually won 3 Oscars for Titanic, and he has 82 wins, 98 nominations total. Out of all these lists, has the biggest winning percentage right now. Even though he has fewer nominations on this list, his completion for wins is closer, 82 to 90.
So he's had more wins, or like his percentage?
His percentage is better.
Okay.
Like he's had 82 wins compared to 98 nominations. With some of these guys, like they won 94, but then they've been nominated.
It was out of a lot more.
Yeah, 142. So, for what he won at the Oscars for Titanic was Best Director, Best Picture, and Best Film Editing. Those are his 3 Oscar wins. So imagine you're going to that and you win 3 in a row, or basically 3 for one thing. That's pretty huge. That was like Oppenheimer for Christopher Nolan almost.
Yeah, that swept. Titanic, I guess was one of those that swept as well.
And then he has like a bunch of his other wins is basically just monumental stuff. All of it is like I remember seeing one of them was the Guinness World Record Award because Avatar 2 had the highest crossing box office. It was like I don't know over 2 billion something. And that Titanic recently had that record, which is funny. So he both beat his own record with that. I think it was Titanic, Avatar did it, and then Avatar 2.
Yeah, and this one just crossed 1 billion. I saw a few days ago.
Yeah. So
this is his 4th movie in a row, really, that has crossed that mark, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, which is, what it takes to make the other movies, basically, with the budgeting. So, yeah, I thought, like, it was cool to see the aftermath, I should say, of what happened to their son. Just to see Neytiri and Jake kind of deal with their grief and their whole family. Interesting choice to go with Spider, though, becoming an air breather. He has AWA DNA or some connection inside him now that he's able to breathe the air of Pandora. So I was wondering what they were going to do for this plot until I saw the trailer. And I was like, okay, well, there it goes. My expectations. I was kind of hoping to be left in the dark a little bit more. But it was cool to see Kiri's development of, let's see, like, what was her connection from second one of, like, why can she sense AWA more a little bit. And it said, like, she's kind of, like, basically, like, a Virgin Mary situation. She has no father. Her avatar, her mother's avatar gave birth to her out of nowhere. And that was Grace from the first movie. I never remember my points here. One other thing I love about James Cameron's directing is his equipment and how he does stuff. Because if you don't know, James Gunn actually built like an in-film CGI camera. So something I've always wondered is like with something so heavily based on CGI and special effects and rendering and stuff, like how do you know how to cut to a certain camera angle and stuff like that? So he actually built a camera to where you can see the whole render displacement of like the area wherever they're at. So like if I see you with the camera I have, I can see the whole surrounding of Pandora on it. So that way I know where I'm going with the camera, so what certain direction I want to go with. So it was super cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah, it was just super cool to see. And then the girl that plays the chieftain, basically the chief of the new tribe, like the Ash people, she is actually a descendant of Charlie Chaplin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I forget her first name, but I thought she did really well with her acting, being introduced to the Avatar series. And she said she had lots of fun with it, and just her demeanor and like her attitude and just the way.
Which character was that?
It was, Korg teams up with the Ash people. It was that girl that he basically likes and gets used to. Yeah, it was that.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that.
But yeah, she's got Chaplin genes in her. So.
Well, That's not on my list. I will play the devil's advocate here, though, and at least give, I guess, a hater's perspective on the
Yeah.
Avatar movie.
No, there's a lot.
I
There's a
don't.
lot of good points that I saw why people didn't like it. Like I also feel similar.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned one of those with like the repetitiveness. Yeah, I've never been a fan of these movies. Really, I've seen all the James Cameron movies, and he was obviously a director that for a long time. You know, he did Terminator, he did Alien, and then he did his big Oscar movie with Titanic back in the '90s, and then it took him like over a decade before he made his next movie, which was Avatar. So from since 1997, he's only made 3 movies, and they have all been Avatar movies, and so that's the beginning of the frustration, is where it feels like this is a guy who was at like the top of his career, and then decided to make the move to just do Avatar only. Right? It's almost like I feel like if Christopher Nolan, instead of doing the Odyssey, decided to just do like his own franchise for like the next 30 years and took like decade upon decade to like make each one. So maybe that's where some of it comes from. I think I just from seeing the movies, they have always just felt really generic to me. I've never understood how they have made as much money as they have, honestly. I feel like until recently I never really knew any like real life Avatar fans. I almost felt like they were as imaginary as the characters themselves, honestly. Where I was like, these movies are making $1 billion, and yet everyone I talk to has either not seen Avatar or doesn't like it that much and thinks it's overrated. But now I at least know one and a few other people who like those movies. But yeah, I think this one especially. I think the first one felt too much like that classic Last Samurai Dances with Wolves type story where it's like the outsider, you know, comes to a culture and then decides to be like become with them and fight back his own heritage. I'm like, I've seen this done better, honestly. But I thought the second one was a little bit better because they kind of, started to do their own story, and then this one just felt like almost like a repeat of the second one. I mean, I could list off a bunch of things I don't like about the movie, so I won't just hate this whole time.
Yeah.
I will just say that, yeah, obviously, some people like them, and some people don't. And I'm in that group that, you know what, it was cool seeing in 3D IMAX. I will say that it was not fun sitting through 3 hours of that movie.
Yeah, it definitely was long, and there's no, bad blood to hate on this movie because it definitely had its flaws with feeling repetitive. Because even something he said that he did was this movie and the second and third were all to be together. Like he cut this up in 2, so that's why it feels like it just kind of plays off from repetitiveness, is because it happens a couple weeks after the second one. It was made to all be one movie, which, geez, I don't know how he would have done that for how long this third one is, and then the second one.
Well, I mean, yeah, each one is like 3 hours, but at the same time, is there really that much plot?
Yeah, it is kind
I
of
don't
just
think
like
so.
fight, captured, fight again, pray to Awa. Awan comes. All 3 Awa has come in.
And what's the kid's name who is like the one human boy in the movie?
Spider.
Like, even to your point earlier where it's like, why did they, I think you were saying, like, why did they like make the plot of like him, breathing their air now? It's like, well, I think it was just like probably inconvenient for James Cameron to have to deal with, one more plot point of, how do we deal with the fact that he, has to have oxygen tanks on him all the time or whatever? It's like, let's just get rid of that. Yeah. It just felt like one of those where it's like, and it just makes it easier from now on. You don't have to always CGI a mask on him or whatever. You can just, be with them.
And I feel like they just, the humans just found another new reason. They already had all the reasons they're going to Pandora in the first place. It's just fighting. Now they have, something they're going to change their direction of wanting to prioritize.
Yeah. It just
but
feels
like you said, spend less time.
I just don't know where these movies are going either.
Yeah.
As, as creative, I guess, as a world he has made with those movies, it kind of feels like he's trapped with like just a few characters and a few circumstances where somehow we've already ran through like the same villain multiple times with that general, the same conflicts with the Earth, with humans.
Yeah.
It's like, where is this going? Is this just going to be a 3 hour repeat? fest every time we do one of these movies. I don't know.
Yeah. And Courage is not even dead, bro. Like, come on, bro.
Yeah, how many times has that general really died too?
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's gonna be every movie at least at this point.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go to my number one. And we'll go to your number one. We'll wrap up here soon. So my favorite movie of 2025. I mean, I had a tough time with this top five. Well, I did not have a tough time with my number one because I knew pretty much from when I saw it that this was probably gonna be my number one movie of the year, and that is F1, which was the Apple. Apple has made a few movies now. They made Napoleon, and then Killers of the Flower Moon, which I did not see.
So, really quick, you just want to tackle this together because that is also my top.
Yep, let's do
Chris,
it. So I'll give my
go.
thoughts. You give your thoughts here.
Yeah.
We can
That's
just go back
perfect.
and forth.
As soon as you said that, I was like,
yeah. This is a movie that I remember. So obviously, this podcast this is only our second episode, but I've always made like lists each year of like at least for the last few years of what I'm looking forward to, and this was definitely one that was up there because all I knew about it, Brad Pitt was in it. He's always one that a guy that makes great movies, and it had a huge budget behind it because Apple obviously is. I don't know, $1 trillion company, or they're ridiculous in how big of a scale they are, and it almost feels like they're just making movies for fun and just trying to win Oscars or whatever. So they're just giving these directors that they trust. They gave it to Ridley Scott. They gave one to Scorsese with those other two movies I mentioned, and then the same guy who made Top Gun Maverick, Joseph Kosinski.
yeah,
Sure.
Made Top Gun 2, Maverick, and then he actually made Only the Brave, or he played a part in helping develop Only the Brave, Oblivion, and the Tron Legacy, and Spiderhead. That's what famously known for.
So he's made some good movies. I haven't seen any of those, maybe, but I've heard good things about some of those.
Oblivion's a Tom Cruise movie. Only the Brave is based off real life firefighters that tragically lost their lives. Josh Brolin, Miles Teller's in that, a couple others.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen a little bit. Yeah. And then I haven't seen Spiderhead. That's also another Chris Hemsworth, Miles Teller thing. It's like a show, I think. I don't know if it's a movie. And then obviously, it did well for itself back then. The Tron Legacy movie, like the 2010 one.
Yeah, no, I've heard. I have not seen that.
But... You haven't seen that?
Mm-mm.
Wow.
I guess. Did you see the new one? Because I guess that wasn't on either of our lists. No. I haven't, but. Either way, back to F1. Yeah, I heard mixed things about it too. Back to F1. Like I was excited because it had a high budget, had Brad Pitt, had this director attached to it, and when I watched it, it kind of delivered what I was hoping for. Which, the guy who made Top Gun Maverick basically made Top Gun Maverick on wheels with this movie.
Yeah,
where you had Brad Pitt as the old mentor who used to be in his prime, now kind of like lost his way, kind of having to mentor this new guy. I don't remember the actor or character's name.
I think it's Damon Idris or is Desmond. He played
Joshua Pierce is the character's name. Mm-hmm.
He played Snowfall. He was like the main guy in Snowfall, which is like
I haven't seen that.
It's in LA. It's just about like the cocaine epidemic.
Okay. Well, he did a good job too, and he kind of plays like the I don't know what it's like the Miles Teller character in the movie.
Arrogant rookie, I would say.
Yeah, and there's nothing really innovative about the story. It's kind of you've seen it before, but everything else about the movie, probably because it had such a huge budget and so much talent behind it, feels like it's like top tier. You got Hans Zimmer on score, who is probably my favorite composer, and he does a fantastic score. It's probably, if I had to choose like a favorite score of the year, it probably goes to this movie. I mean, it also has just a great soundtrack with the songs they added for the movie as well.
Yeah.
So obviously that component was top tier. The filming is great for the movie. I saw this one in IMAX as well, and that was definitely the way to see it. I saw it recently with my family on the TV, and it was good. But when you're seeing that in IMAX, especially with those racing scenes, like cool. You feel like you're in the car right with them because somehow they got those cameras like right on the side of the car, which I love because then you literally get like a POV.
Yeah, it's
during the race.
It's very similar. Like shot selection was very identical to Top Gun Maverick. Yeah. The way they did that is like they built these little mini Sony cameras or like all 360 roundabouts. So as they're going, it like shows the entire way through. And another cool one is like, remember the opening of the car Joshua Pierce is riding through the track and it says F1, like he's doing the practice. They flew in a helicopter to track him, dude. Like that's so sick.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and like you said, the composer Hans Zimmer, he obviously wanted to do so well. Like he did so well with making it feel super epic with all his soundtracks. And
no, I didn't know he was attached to the movie, so I remember like seeing that in theaters, and as soon as it says like his name, I'm like, oh, like
yeah,
we're in for something special.
I think he definitely wanted to make sure he got to the drivers what they wanted to accomplish with this, because not only did the producers wasn't just Brad Pitt, it was actually Lewis Hamilton, who is one of the best renowned F1 drivers, 7-time world champion, who is on Ferrari now. So I watch F1, the sport, a little bit, so I knew like what to watch after and stuff. So it was super cool for me to see like, okay, just a year difference. Because when I was watching the races last year, I saw Brad Pitt on some of the circuits, like filming that like scenes for it on specific tracks. Cool. So he was there.
Yeah, didn't they do it like during races for some of that stuff? Because they obviously had actual F1 drivers. Like you said, Lewis Hamilton helped produce the movie, which is so you got
like they did
people
some
who knew the sport working on this.
Yeah, they did some with practice days, I think, and just put the rest in. But then they would film like one part, the actual podium wins with the real racers, and then they did one scene where he would be on there or something like that. Very ending was like obviously fake because he got to be up there as the who won the race. So, but no, it was super cool seeing like just a year difference about like some of those guys. Some of them don't race. They lost their contracts, or some of them switched teams. So it was cool to be like, oh, this. I forgot like these guys used to be teammates and stuff. So it was really cool to see.
But yeah, I mean, everything else about the movie too. Like I said, the cast is great. The story, like, it was nothing inventive. Like the dialogue was really good with all the characters. Like funny moments. All the chemistry between the love interests and just like Javier Bardem's character, like his friend that he used to race with, who's now like in charge. Like everyone, it's just such an enjoyable movie.
Yeah.
And sometimes those are the movies that, especially in a year where I felt like there was nothing that really wowed me, it's like this is the safe pick of a movie that you can kind of show anyone. It's family friendly. Like it was a good family watch when I watched it with my family recently. There's a YouTuber I watch named Sean Chandler. He's like my favorite movie YouTuber. And I think he called this like the dad movie of the year. And it's like that's a great way of putting it. Or like maybe just family movie of the year, where it's a crowd pleaser. There's no, real tragic moments in the movie. There's nothing super confusing. It's a movie that pretty much plays to a wide audience where most people can enjoy this movie on some level. Even someone like me who doesn't watch F1, doesn't really know anything about the sport, you can still follow the races really easily. They explain, there's a few things with like the rules at moments where I'm like, they explain it enough, and watching it a second time helped a little bit too. But I remember there was a few things where I'm like, I don't completely understand why that would be legal or not legal, or why that would be like a big deal. But it's easy to follow the whole time, and it's obviously has those moments of celebration and victory that make it a satisfying watch. So yeah, it was a great movie.
Yeah, no, super satisfying. It was such an awesome movie. I loved it.
And watching it a second time, kind of, like I said, it confirmed it. I mean, even just Brad Pitt's character. Why am I blanking on the character's name now? But like his journey throughout that movie is Sonny Hayes. As the fact that it's like, what's his purpose? There's always that aspect in like every movie, really, of a character trying to find their purpose, and like his is just that he loves driving. And after all, the whole movie, I love how it ends with him just like taking that job out in like the beach or whatever.
Yeah. And
they're like, "Why are you doing this?" And it's like, because he loves it.
Yeah. It's not about the trophies, man.
It's not about the money. It's about the game.
About the game. I love that
the love of the sport.
Yeah, exactly. I love that scene where he comes back and his friend, you said his name was again? Javier
Bardem.
Yeah, and when he was telling me, I'm not going to let you drive, he's like, man, if my way to go out is in that car, I'll take that all the time. Like, saying he'll take that life of dying in that car over and over. Like, I thought it was just so cool to see.
He did a great job, too. It was funny seeing him in this type of role, because I've only seen him in 2 other movies to my knowledge: No Country for Old Men
Yeah.
and Skyfall. And both of those, he plays like
He's
really disturbing villains.
Yeah, he's more known to play like villainous roles, so it's cool.
So seeing him just play like a normal person, I was like, oh, I guess it's probably more what he's like in real life.
And
so
a normal haircut too.
yeah, doesn't have that awful No Country for Old Men haircut.
But, so perfect. Sorry we're rushing for time.
No, I think it's been like about an hour, which we're just over, what we were shooting for. So
yeah, so we're super glad to be back filming for episode 2 and also future episodes. We're so glad that we're just happy to be back to see each other talk about movies again. We hope
first episode of 2026.
Yeah,
here we go.
Many more to come. We hope you guys enjoy. Look forward to episode 3 coming out. We'll talk more about what we're going to be doing for that. So
yeah, I mean, our first episode we did our most anticipated of 2026, and then this we did just talking about 2025 movies. This is not going to be the typical format going forward. We'll talk about what we want to do, but we're going to have it won't be the same. We're going to have more of a structured format, probably covering different topics each time. It won't just be movie rankings. We'll obviously try to get something with the news usually, probably talk about movies we've seen. It'll be all over the place. And also when the Oscars come up here soon too, we'll probably have a segment or maybe just a full podcast talking about some of that stuff.
I was about to say, like we mentioned,
stay tuned.
Yeah, we mentioned awards, so that would definitely be a topic choice.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe compared to old film to newer film, how that's a difference too now. So we'll see how that goes. Did you see that Christopher Nolan is filming on IMAX film only for Odyssey?
Mm-hmm.
All scenes. That's gonna be sick, dude.
Oh yeah, can't wait.
All right, peace, everybody. Look forward to the next one. See you soon. Bye.